Hey everyone, this is Mamta from Codecademy and welcome to the project overview video. In this video, I'll take you through the step-by-step process on how to complete a Wine Festival Schedule project, which is a part of Learn HTML course. In this project, we'll be using our knowledge of HTML tabular components to create a table, to organize the data, and to structure it within this table. So without any further delay, let's get started. Let's start by understanding the storyline for this project. The Aguilar family is hosting the annual wine festival and they have asked us to build a web page for the event schedule. So we need to use our knowledge of HTML, specifically the tabular elements, to display a table to these attendees. This table will have all the data related to the schedule. Just before we start, let's have a preview of how the final outcome will look like. Let's click on this link. So this is how the final outcome should be. As you can see, there is a table with a heading, which is the wine festival schedule. The table is further divided into two columns. The first column on the left has a heading time. The column on the right has a heading event. And then we have multiple rows which have the data respective to the time and the event associated with the time. So now that we have a picture of how the final outcome will look like, let's get started by writing the code. In order to achieve this outcome, we have to complete 10 tasks in total. So let's get started with the first task. The first task is in index.html inside of the div element, which has an attribute class with a value of container. We need to create a table element. So first let's recheck if we are in the index.html file. Yes, we are. In here, we need to find the div element which has an attribute class and a value container assigned to it. There we go. This is the div element. The task says in this div, we need to create a table element. Now, personally, indentation makes the code very much readable. So I usually go ahead and provide indentation for any elements that I create. It just makes your code much more readable for you as well as other developers who are reading it. So let's create our table element. So once we have created a table element, it will define a table within this file. And one more thing I like to do personally is I like to keep the spacing, like the first opening tag, I like to keep it on a separate line and the closing tag on a separate line. So the contents can be added within these two elements. So if we run the code, there we go. No errors so far in the code. We do not have any output on the screen because the table has no data. As in when we add data in the table, we'll be able to see the output on the screen. So let's tick the task 1 as done. One more thing that we have in the tasks is the hint. Here at Codecademy, you will get hints for the tasks that you have been working on. So these hints we can use just in case if we are stuck somewhere and we need more data to understand what we are supposed to do. So you can make use of the hints as well. Now let's go to our task number 2. For the task number 2, we have been asked that inside of the table element that we have just created, we need to add a section for the table headings using the T head element. So inside this table tag, let us provide indentation once again and let us add the T head tag, T head element as told in the task 2. That is just one half of the task 2. We have one more line, we have one more instruction in the task 2 that says, then inside add two rows using the table row element. So inside of this th element that we have just created, we need to use the table row element 2 times in order to create 2 different rows. So let's go inside. It's recommended to write it in the next line just to make the code look more readable. So the tr tag, as we have discussed, that it defines the rows of the table. So one pair of tr element and the second pair. So this will create the one row for us and this will create the second row for us as it has been asked in the task number 2. So let's save it. No errors so far. So with that, we are done with our task number 2. For the task number 3, it says inside the first table row element. So if you remember, we have created 2 table rows. So inside the first table row element from the task 2, add a table heading element. So inside the first TR, we need to add a table heading element. So let's add the TH element, which defines the heading of the table in order to create a table heading element. And the second part of the task says inside of this th tag that we have used, include an h1 element with the following text. So as we know, h1 is a heading element in HTML, and H1 is the most important heading. So if you remember the table that we are supposed to create, that has a heading wine event schedule as the main heading at the top. So in this th, let's add the h1 element, and within the h1, let us give the heading wine festival schedule. We can do one more thing. If you wish to make it a bit more readable, you can have the H1 elements on a separate line. So now if you see, it creates a ladder-like structure, which is more easy to read in terms of a code. So now if we save, there we go. We have the heading wine festival schedule, which is shown in H1 being the most important heading. So at the end of task 3, we have achieved with the first heading of our table. Now let's go ahead and try to create the 2 columns, one with the time heading and one with the event heading. So for that, let's go to task number 4. Task number 4 says inside the second table row element. So if you remember, we have used the first table row element for creating the H1 heading, wine festival schedule. We are left with one more table row. In this second table row element, we need to add 2 th elements. We need to add 2 table heading elements. So this is the first th element. This is the second th element. As you can see, we have indentations again, so it makes the code much easier to read. Now, it says in the first th element that we have created, add an h2 element that says time. H2 again being a heading element, it belongs to the second most important heading. So inside the th, let's add h2, and within this h2 we need to have a data that says time. And in the second th element, add one more h2 element that says even. So in the second th, let's add another h2 element. This time the data should say even. Again, if you wish to, you can keep the h2 elements on a separate line. That will make the code look much more readable than what it is right now. There we go. So now if we save and run the code, there we go. We have created 2 separate columns. One is the time and one is the event. But if you see in the output, we have one issue. The wine festival schedule, the heading is not really stretching up to the end of the event column. So the first thing we need to do is fix this even before creating the other rows in this table. So let's do that in our task number 5. So task number 5 says that you may notice that, yes, we do notice that the wine festival schedule, it does not stretch across the entire table. Okay, so let's try to fix that. So in the opening th tag, so where's the opening th tag? Here, the opening of the wine festival schedule over here, because it's the wine festival schedule that is not stretching. In here, we need to add call span is equal to 2. So what is call span over here doing? It is an attribute which is usually used in the th or the td tag to make the cell span across the number of columns we wanted to. When we say call span is equal to 2, over here it will stretch or span across 2 columns in total. Let's see if it actually does. There we go. So over here we have used the call span attribute to make sure that it stretches to 2 columns and not more or less than that. So at the end of task 5, if you see, we have created the heading elements, the wine festival schedule, the H1 being the most important heading, and time and event, H2 being the second most important heading. Now it's time to create the rest of the rows that had the data based on the events and the timing associated with those events. So for that, let's look at the next task, task number 6. Task number 6 is below the closing of the T head tag, where the T head tag has been closed over here. So below that, section of the table using a table body element. So just after the T head tag where it is closed, let us create a table body or the T body element. In this T body element, we'll create the rows and fill it with the data required. So we are done with the task 6. We added the T body element right after the T head tag closes off. Let's see for any errors. No errors so far. Now, task 7. Task 7 says that inside of the table body tag, the T body that we just created, we need to create 5 rows using the table row element. So now if you recall, we had created the table row elements earlier also. So which tag did we use to do the same? We used the TR tag, right? So this one line is contributing to one row inside the table. The task 7 is asking us to create 5 different rows. So we need to have the TR elements 5 different times. So that's our third row. That's the fourth row. And that is the last row. So now we have 5 different rows at the end of our task number 7. Let's see if there are any errors. No errors so far. If you are wondering why are there the no 5 rows on the output, because we do not have any data inside it as of now. When we add some data, the rows will be visible. So with that, we are done with the task number 7 also. Good going. Now let's look at task 8. So task 8 says inside each of these rows, we need to create 2 cells using the table data element. Okay, so inside each of these rows, meaning inside every TR element that we have created, we need to create 2 cells using the table data element. So let's go inside one of the rows. So this is the first cell using the TD or the table data element. And this is the second cell using the TD table data element. This has to be done in all the rows. So we can copy paste or we can simply write it down just to make sure that the indentation is maintained throughout the code. Second row, this is the third row, first cell and second cell using the table data elements. Fourth row, first cell and second cell. Fifth row, which is the last row, first cell and the second cell. So every row now has 2 cells, which basically, if you can imagine, is contributing to the left column as well as the right column. I mean the data on the left side as well as the right side in the same row. So now that we have created 2 cells in each row using the table data TD element, the next thing that we are supposed to do is in the first table data element in each row. Let's scroll up to the first row. The first table data element in each row, it should have an attribute class and the value that we have to assign to it is left. So let's go in every cell, every first cell that we have added in the row, the class attribute should be given a value left. This has to be done for every first cell of the row. So class left class attribute having a value left. Same thing, class attribute having a value left, and one last time, class attribute having a value left. So if you see, all the five first table data elements of the 5 rows have an attribute class with a value left. So if we run the code, currently we do not have any data, but we do see something. We just have to fill this with the data now. So with that, we are done with the task number 8. Now it's time that we fill these rows with the data in them. So let's do that in our task number 9. So task number 9 says that inside of each of the 5 TD class left, meaning inside of the first table data element that we have created, to which we give the class attribute having left value, we need to add H3 elements, and it will include the times of the event as follows. H3 is the third important tag in HTML. So let's go in these TD elements. As suggested, we can provide indentation and we can write it on the next line. So H3 element, and let's go with the first time, which is 12 p.m. So 12 p.m. This has to be done for all the first TD elements of each row. Let's go inside the TD element, H3, the third heading. The second time is 1 p.m. Third TD element, H3. The third time is 02 p.m. The fourth TD element, H3, 03 p.m. And the last TD element, H3, and the time is 4 p.m. So now that we have added the data to the table, let's see if the table is visible to us with this data. It is. So in the time column, you have all the 4 time values that we have given. We have all the 5 time values that we have given. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yes. So now that we have created the left side of the table, it's now time to add the data into the right side, that is the events associated with these timings. So we are done with the task 9. We are pending just with one task, that is the task 10. So in the task 10, in each of the TD tags, the second TD tags, which do not have the class attribute or the left value in it, we need to add the same H3 element, the third most important heading in HTML, and it will include the names of the event. So let's go in the second TD tag, H3. The first event that we can see over here is welcome reception. So let's add it here. Welcome reception. Let's go into the second TD tag. The second event is storytelling and tasting. So H3, storytelling and tasting. Oops. So in the 48th line, if you see, I got a red symbol and it says special characters must be escaped. So the code compiler is asking me to not use any special characters, which is kind of a warning to me. Let's save it and see if we get the output. Yeah. So we do get the output, but it is just asking me if I can escape it. So if in case it is asking the same to you to escape, you can just try to change the and to and, or even if you keep it, there shouldn't be any issue. But since it is asking me to, I'll just change it to END rather than having the special character. The next TD tag has an event wine luncheon. So wine luncheon. The next event is Aguilar family wines. So H3, H3. Oh, I think I just missed the H3 over here. And H3. Aguilar family wines. And one last data point that we are supposed to put is for wine and cheese tasting. So wine again and cheese tasting. So if I run it now, it should show me an output, but since it is, there we go, we have the and, but since it is just asking me to escape the and, let's try to do that. So I'll rather put and. So now if we save the code after the 10th task is done, let's tick that. There we go. So this is how the final outcome looks like for the HTML code that we just wrote. So does it match with the expected outcome that we were supposed to have? It does. If you remember, we needed a heading that says Wine Festival Schedule. We needed two headings of the column. One was time on the left side, one was event on the right side, and we needed the rows which had the data. So what we have done is we have used the tabular elements available in HTML, the table element, the T head, the T H, the TR and the TD elements to create a table and organize and structure data within it. So as conclusion, by using tabular organization, it is easy to read the data and to navigate through it. Tables help present data in a much structured manner and it makes it more accessible as well as visually appealing. So with that, we have ended with the project. I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you so much. Thank you for following along. We hope that now you feel more confident in your HTML skills after completing our Wine Festival Schedule project. For more hands-on project, additional courses and career paths, do check out the link given in the description below. Do not forget to subscribe to Codecademy's YouTube channel for more project videos and more exciting content coming your way. Thank you.